So I've known Dawn for a long time. We met when my kids were little, and I don't know if I was pregnant or whether they were just born, but you
I
have
think it was you. I think one was little. It was before you'd had your second.
possibly, yes, but
A long time
yeah, a
ago.
long time ago. And you have been, I mean, you've been my angel because you have got me through so much. Some of those real low points that you have as a mum. So I cannot thank you enough, firstly, from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thank you.
But what Dawn does is so special because I think it's different, but it works amazingly on absolutely everybody in the family. I mean, the kids, the pets, even the house. You can treat absolutely everything through frequency. And it's a beautiful, easy method. And also it can be as involved as you want it to be, or as like, Dawn, can you please just test this? Or, it's as involved or as little as you want it to be. So tell me a little bit about yourself, because I was just quickly reading your bio again earlier, and which I didn't know about you is that you got into all of this through your own ill health at quite an early age.
Yeah, just 21. I was kind of like weeks away from getting married and not able to walk. And it was a
Wow.
real kind of like battle. And the medical profession had got an appointment for me well after the wedding date. So, whilst my husband to be was amazing and said, don't worry about it, I didn't want to be struggling. And
Yeah.
that's how I found, there was no answers immediately available with the medical system, which there often isn't with chronic health. But I found a homeopath and I found some wonderful people on my when I'd made that decision that I wanted to find answers, people started appearing and
Mm.
giving me pointers into the path. And no one person gave me the answer, but everyone gave me a piece of the puzzle that helped me to find out more. And at the time, I was studying to be an accountant, but the natural law that I was discovering made so much sense. So whilst
Yeah.
I made my decision to finish studying as an accountant, because once I start something I like to finish it, I really was then passionate to start learning about homeopathy, natural health, and the whole rabbit hole
Yeah.
that takes you down, because it's never just one thing. It's all connected, it's all part
Yeah.
of that same picture, and we are more complicated than just one thing. We are many, many parts. So
Yeah.
it's just been an amazing journey, and everything that I have learned has helped me and my families, which is what's led me to be passionate about learning it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And of
Yeah.
course, I managed to walk down the aisle and has been constantly learning about health and my own health ever since, which we all are. We're not just simple. Well, some people are very lucky to be healthy, but at some point we all need support with our health
Yeah.
at different stages in our life. So yeah, just that magic of health.
Yeah. I think, like us, also, you're a serial studier. You don't stop
Yeah.
learning, don't stop booking up those courses. So, what led you from homeopathy, because you are a homeopath, onto the biofeedback system?
Well, so for me, I was frustrated for some of my clients because a lot of people are not necessarily aware that there's a problem with their health until they become unwell.
Yeah.
And if you're suddenly facing health, you don't always know what the homeopathic practitioner wants to know. You've got an hour or an hour and a half of an appointment to fill, and it's kind of like, well, I've just got this skin issue, I've just got this digestive issue. There's not always that understanding and connection with what's gone on in life and the effects that those things may have.
Mm.
And so for me, I was frustrated about what I couldn't. It's that piece of information of like the client doesn't know they know it, and I can't work out how to elicit it from them because the client has got no idea that that's relevant. If you went to see a doctor, you'd say, I've got a headache. If you go and see a homeopath, you want to know what times a day are those headaches there? What makes it better? What makes it worse? What's been going on in life? Maybe what happened in childhood. And if you've just got headaches, you might go, it's just a headache. You've got no recollection of what it feels like. So for me, I was searching for solutions to help me help my clients help them get better.
Yeah.
And when I found the biofeedback at that point in life, my back injury had resurfaced, which is often the way things come back to kind of like let you know that you need to learn something else. And you're thinking, yeah, I've learned everything I need to know now. The universe goes, no, you haven't. You need to know something else now. And so, yeah, just kind of like it kind of led me on that path. So I found the biofeedback system and booked in an appointment and was so impressed with everything that came up. Even the vertebrae that the chiropractor had just identified in an x-ray were damaged. The biofeedback picked up those same vertebrae had vibrational issues. And so I was like, wow, you know, this has got it spot on. It picked up the supplements that I was struggling to absorb. I'd got the supplements right, but my body wasn't recognizing the supplement. And I could feel when I had the treatment and had the frequency for the supplements that I was on, I could just feel my body suddenly get stronger and almost like sucking in that energy and using everything that I'd been putting there. And that in that one appointment just was like, yeah, I'm smitten. I've got to do this because it's ticking all those boxes of everything I know. And the practitioner that was running it didn't know the back issue I'd got or the vertebrae that were damaged. So for me, that really was proof that this knows what's going on. And so from there, it means I've been able to work with a number of clients picking up emotional issues where, you know, sometimes we've got stuff going on, we're not aware what stuff was bothering us, but this will pick up and say, you know, you're bothered about maybe there's sadness in your life, or it will pick up specific emotions. Maybe you're frustrated, maybe you're searching for something, maybe there's been trauma, you've not kind of made the connection that maybe a gut issue is linked in with the trauma. But also foods, as an example. I was unwell recently. Everyone gets poorly at some point, and what came up for me were two foods that I've always been absolutely safe on, and I had never clocked in the last month or so that those foods would be upsetting my health. And so I took those foods up, and sure enough, I started to get better. And those foods have been my safe foods for ever. And all of a sudden I'm not going to be able to eat them for a while. Maybe I've overindulged in those safe foods. You know, it's kind of like safe foods become easy, but you know, I've had to just take those out for a while so my gut can heal and maybe absorb other things. And so it's really, really invaluable to be able to know that something that you're eating is maybe making you unwell when it's a really healthy food. You know, it was tomatoes and carrots, which is just such a kind of like heartbreaking thing, because that's my winter stews I've got to be reinvented now. But it's just kind of like, yeah, they're healthy foods. They're not an average food that you'd say, go and avoid carrots and tomatoes, because for some people tomatoes are not so good because they're acidic, but carrots are rarely an unsafe food for people. So they've had to go for short term. A bit harsh, but you know, that's just the way it is.
So your machine, it works on so many different levels, doesn't it? So because from what I remember, you can test homeopathic remedies, you can test emotions, because I always remember I mean, there's loads of different aspects that you can look into, can't you?
So it covers flower remedies, homeopathic remedies, nutrients, foods that may be not suiting you. It picks up kind of like disease pathogens. It picks up parts of the body, muscles and bones. The list is huge. It tests for just under 7,000 different things, and within that I can then test for different things. So if it doesn't come up with a remedy that I've kind of like feel fits the patient, I can then test for that remedy and fine tune down to the potency as well. So it's really useful for me as a homeopath, because it means I can combine in those other skills, the homeopathy. I can test for supplements and nutrients. So it's just really, really useful that you can see whether someone needs a supplement energetically or they need a physical dose of that supplement. Are they struggling to absorb a nutrient, or do they need more of a particular nutrient?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
So it's all physical then and all emotional that it can touch on.
It can touch on absolutely physical and emotional and everything in between, and family health history as well, you know, because as an example, if there's gout in the family, that means there's a risk that that person's going to suffer with maybe rheumatism. So you're looking at all the emotional issues and the nutrient issues that are going to go with that, but then you can then test to see, does that patient maybe need homeopathic uric acid? Do they need other supplements that go and support gout. Even though they've not got gout, you're kind of going back further in the family. So it's not always our kind of like, you know, it's very easy to go, oh, what have you done to make yourself ill? But sometimes it's the baggage. You're looking at what's that underlying baggage? How do I manage that underlying weakness with that baggage on top of life and living as well, which is always throwing things at you.
Yeah, always. Actually, at the moment, I'm suffering from, I think it's a dermatitis or an eczema around my eyes, which is very frustrating. So I may just give you a call. But we were going to talk today about allergies and sensitivities, because obviously it's so important. It's such a big subject, isn't it? I think
it's huge, isn't it?
I think everybody at some stage has had hay fever, or like a reaction to something has come up, or, you know, so many different things.
Again, that could be a person as well. As well as it being a, you know, something we eat.
Absolutely.
It could be anything to a place, a feeling, it could be anything, couldn't it?
And it can be kind of like sometimes we've got irritations because we need to put down better boundaries maybe and prune things out of our life. Maybe it's people, maybe it's things, maybe it's kind of like changing what we do, but it's not always down to like don't eat tomatoes and carrots as an example. Sometimes it's kind of like so much more than that, and it's kind of important to kind of like see what comes up. So when you're testing someone with allergies, if you use hay fever as an example, because everyone resonates with that, you're looking at maybe what stresses came up when that hay fever first started. So if maybe it was an exam stress that comes up on the machine, so you know, fear of exams, fear of failure, exam stresses, they're all emotions that can come up. That then gives a bit of an indicator for my client to think, oh, do you know what, maybe it did start coming up maybe when I was doing my GCSEs and I got really stressed in the exam hall. And then we can start exploring that, and that leads me down a route of what else to explore and test for my client, because that means, you know, if they're stressed, what was going on at the time, you know, what, maybe they were nutrient deficient, maybe they were shoveling sweets in harder than you can imagine, because what teenager doesn't want to make themselves feel better with a packet of sweets or some crisps? So you're looking at maybe what got depleted at that point, but you're also looking at what else was going on in their life emotionally, so you can build on that. And I give a remedy alongside that, made with the frequencies of all the issues that have come up, to help the body reinforce and let go of that muscle memory and that cellular memory that goes with that stored trauma. So, you know, GCSEs can be quite traumatic. We all feel that we're going to be the end of the world and not be able to do what we want when we do or don't get what we want from those exam results, and we're always very fearful and not aware the other side's kind of okay whatever happens. But as a child or teenager going through that, you're not aware. Every teenager pretty much goes through that same emotional trauma if they're bothered. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
And it can be the same with you know, maybe someone develops an allergy to tea after going through grief. They might not make that connection that cup of tea is something that they're allergic to. They might not make the connection that it was from sitting and drinking cups of tea after the trauma of grief, and the body then has that muscle memory every time of associating tea with grief.
Actually,
So
weirdly you should say that, but I thought mine could be tea. I use, because it's how I use tea to I suppose it's to take time out of my day to relax.
That's self-soothing.
Yeah, because
and I suppose for alcohol, then, for a lot of people, that could be a trigger.
Absolutely.
And then, funny, as you're talking, I suppose you've also got the other side of that somebody, it just thought of something that happened personally with me, when you could then be testing for something, an allergy, no one knowing where it's come from, and then you actually highlighting it. So, for example, it could be a mold spore, it could be anything that you have
absolutely, and you've no idea.
You would then see, and then, oh yeah, I have had some black mold come up in my bedroom, or you know what I mean? It could be anything.
Absolutely. And sometimes it will come up with things and I haven't got a clue what that thing is, so I have to look it up, because like you say, some mold spores have got very specific names, so then we look it up, and it works on a process similar to homeopathic, like cures like. So sometimes it's not the exact thing, but it's a very similar thing. So it's making that patient think, for example, of like, oh, it's a mold spore, yes, you're right, I've got mold, I need to deal with that situation. So it's working like cures like all the time. The other side of it is it doesn't always come up with the thing that you're allergic to straight away. So when I first started using the biofeedback, I knew that I couldn't tolerate dairy, and I'd not been able to tolerate dairy for many, many years. So probably since childhood. And the biofeedback didn't pick up dairy until after using it for about 18 months. But what happened then was I could eat dairy. I don't particularly like it, but it doesn't bother me or upset me now if I eat it inadvertently in something. So the body knows the order it needs to deal with things, so it doesn't always pick things up straight away. It's kind of like that allergy was there and I knew about it, and it probably didn't come up because I wasn't eating it because it doesn't suit me. So it's not going to say, for me, when I did the biofeedback on myself the other day, it said don't eat carrots and tomatoes. It's like, hey, I have them nearly every day. So that's kind of like going, stop it straight away. But with dairy, I don't have it. So it's not an urgent issue to say stop eating dairy. But what was an urgent issue was to start fixing all the underlying issues that was making me allergic to dairy. And by fixing all those underlying issues, it then was able to go, hey, I found this little nugget in your toolbox here that says you can't eat dairy. Let's sort that out so that you can. And not everyone should eat dairy, so I'm also really respectful. I don't think it suits my person type. If you look at, say, ancient Ayurvedic medicine, every kind of, like, you've got Kapha, Pitta and Vata, each type and combination of types have got the diets that suit them. So dairy is not something that particularly is one of my, you can eat loads of this and it's going to suit you like a Vata would, but it's there kind of like, I now can go out and eat something and not be like, oh whoa, no dairy on site please type feeling. So it's just kind of like makes life a much easier place when you can work with your body type, but also kind of like rebalance your body so those energetic issues aren't there with eating. And
as you just
kind
said
of like
as well,
going out,
getting your body into that place, because there could be some people that aren't eating dairy because they react to it, but they might actually need it.
Absolutely.
So by getting it back to that beautiful balanced place again, you can then introduce it, and then your body is going to be doing what it's meant to do and to heal itself.
And recognizing it, because if we're kind of cutting out more and more foods all the time, which can happen, then you're going to get more and more chronically ill because your body's going to become malnourished. Even if you're having a good diet, you've got to be able to eat a good variety of different foods, and you've got to be able to absorb those foods as well. And so the digestion and the absorption are both really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is where I say the bioresonance just can pick up on all them little hidden bits which we can't see that's going on.
And it's kind of like, it's always what you can't see that you need to fix, isn't it? Because if you can see it, you know what to do to fix it.
Yeah, very much so. So obviously you've joined Atta Clinic, which we're very excited about. How would, because it's an online clinic, unless obviously someone lives around the corner from you, but how would you work online with somebody?
So I give my clients the option of working via WhatsApp or Facebook Live or Zoom, because they're what I've got set up. So I'm quite happy to work with that. Some of my clients are not keen on technology, so they prefer to work on the landline, and that's absolutely, or the mobile phone. So they're using a phone, and that's absolutely fine as well. I do have a patient form, so I ask my clients to just fill in as much as possible before I see them to give me that background information. And if they don't like to use an online Google form, then I'm quite happy to work with them, sending me an email or a letter or whatever they want, as long as they can try and get as much of those questions in that information as possible. So I try to be as flexible as possible within that bounds of making it work.
And how would you test them if they're not seeing you?
So in my in-person clients, since COVID, I work with a hair sample with everyone. I used to work with a headset as well, but I'm not able to clean that with harsh chemicals, which you'd need to be able to say how clean it is. So I've had to work completely with a hair sample, and I compare using a hair sample to kind of like putting a mobile number into your mobile phone. If I put my number in my phone, I can just press a button and ring you magically. There's no cables attached. It just magically says, hi, can I speak to you? And it's a bit like that with the computer system. I put the hair sample onto the system, and that then picks up your frequency and tunes into your frequency and saves that frequency, so I can kind of call back into you again. I only ever work with permission from the client, so I would never call in with anyone on their frequency without their consent. But it is a great tool if someone's kind of unwell and wants to just book in an appointment, and like you said, you know, kind of like help. I can book in an emergency appointment. I've got that frequency there to connect into you, and I can run that test with a little bit of a chat beforehand. So, you know, I always agree a goal with my client of what do you want out of this. So, and the goal I always create, I want to make my client's heart sing. So if I create a goal from what you've told me you want, and you're like, that's not, I'm not feeling it, then we need to rework that goal, because if it's not making your heart sing, it's not the right goal. If I'm not getting that, yes, that's what I want, I'm not working on quite the right thing. It doesn't mean it won't work, but it's not quite tuning into what you want to work on for your body. So it's about making that vibrational connection so that you feel that resounding yes within you. And then that means your whole energy is then tuned in and wanting that treatment, which I feel is more powerful. And it's just about trying to give everything we do that more power. Everything we do in life, we should be working on that. Does that feel right? Yes, I want that. Rather than like, that'll do. It's like, no, you've got to want it.
It's the passion,
you've got to have
that
intention.
passion.
Absolutely.
And does it matter, the first thing I think, does it matter if you've got dyed hair?
No, it doesn't matter if you've got dyed hair, because it's still your hair underneath it, so it's still working on that vibrational.
Of you.
You're still you underneath it.
Wonderful. It's really exciting, isn't it? And it's such, honestly, I can't vouch for it enough, because I've used it and I've known Dawn, and it's just, it has saved me on so many occasions. And my kids and my dogs, and various other things. So I'd highly recommend it. But thank you for joining us today. Have you got any more questions? Has anyone got any questions?
Have you got anything else that you'd like to add?
I'm not sure, actually. I could probably talk for all day, but that might not be constructive.
No, I think we've covered everything really beautifully, actually.
So thank you so much, Dawn.
So
thank you very much for having me.
Through our website, if you want to find a booking with her, if you've got any questions, obviously just get in touch with us, and we can make you connect with our beautiful Dawn, and you can liaise with her personally. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.